I started a live stream of my cheating husband. While he was in the act, betrayal is a terrible thing to go through. It tears trust apart and leaves wounds that take a long time to heal. It's been a year since the guy who I thought was the love of my life, it was pretty stupid TBH, broke my trust and cheated on me. When I saw this thread, male and female Redditors who caught their partners cheating, how did you do it? How did you react? I knew I had to share my story because I want anyone who has been through that situation or is going through it to know that they are not alone in this. And although it may seem like the toughest phase of their life, it will pass. I'll start from the beginning so that everyone reading it can get the complete context of the situation. Me and my husband, now ex-husband, Max, are both the same age, 30 years. We had been married for 5 years before I got a divorce from him last year. We have no children together, lucky for me, because I don't want to raise a child with that bastard. We both come from a small town in New Jersey, USA. Our town had only one school, so it was one of those situations where everyone knew everyone. We had always been in the same class. We were in high school. When he asked me out on a date, I thought he looked cute. And so I was like, why not? We dated throughout our high school, and years after that, we did encounter many rough patches in the initial years of our relationship, but we used to get through it eventually. Everyone around us said that it happens when you are young and in love. One thing that used to bind us was the love we had for our small town. While many of our batchmates from school went to different state universities far off, both of us wanted to stay in the town itself. We both graduated from the community college, and while my ex took over his family's hardware store, I joined our town school as a kindergarten teacher. We dated for quite long and then finally decided to get married. It was a natural decision, considering we were in love and all. He told me he wanted to spend all his life with me, and I felt the same about him. 2 years back, we bought our first home together. We spent all our savings together in that house. It felt good to take steps like these as a couple. We had a comfortable life and everything was going well until reality hit hard. Our house was built in the relatively developed part of the town. The houses in this part were only recently built, so it was no surprise that not many houses were taken in our lane yet. We had moved to this house from our rental house, which was right in front of a bar, so you could imagine the noise we had to endure. It felt really good to finally get away from that noise and have some peace. Still, seeing many empty houses around us has started to feel like we were living in a ghost house from some horror movie. The feeling didn't last long as, a few months after we moved, the house just adjacent to us also had someone moving in. I remember watching from my porch as the moving truck came and the movers started taking down stuff to the house. I waited excitedly to see who our new neighbors were. A woman then came to the house and parked her car in the garage of that house. She must be the new owner, I thought to myself before leaving the house for some errands. I thought of introducing myself later to her. Later that night, I told Max that we have a new neighbor. "Someone we know?" he asked. I told him that it was a new face, and I hadn't seen her around town before today. I told him that we should go and introduce ourselves to her. He hummed a yes or something before we went to sleep. I was busy with an event being held at the school, so it was only a few days later when I finally went to my neighbor's house to make an introduction. I had baked brownies that evening and decided to take some for her as well. My neighbor was a woman named Clary. She had just moved to the town. I asked her if she's alone or her family will join her. She told me that it was just here. She had moved to the town from New York and had gotten a job in the local news channel. I didn't ask any further because I didn't want to be one of those nosy neighbors I saw in the TV shows. This was our first meeting after all. I told her to feel free to ask us if she needs something. She seemed like a sweet woman, was my first thought as I made my way back home. Days went normally after that. I was busy in school as I had to also take classes from another teacher who was on maternity leave. Max was also busy in the hardware store. Some days, correcting copies and other work took so long that I used to come home after him. I would see Claire in passing and we would pass a smile or a wave, but that was it. One day, it was just me in the house. I was in the middle of making dinner for me and Max when I heard the doorbell. I was surprised to see Claire on the other side of the door. I invited her in. She told me that she had locked herself out of the house while her keys were still inside. "I'm still getting used to these locks," she said. I told her I understand, as it took me some time as well to get used to the automatic lock. I told her not to worry and informed her that my husband owns a hardware store in the town and will sort it out easily. She released a breath of relief, and I smiled at her as I took my phone to dial Max. I told him what the problem was and asked him if he could send any staff from the store to open the lock. Max had 2 staff in his store working alongside him, but they were on half day that day. It was almost dinner time, so he said he'll be home soon and will open the lock himself. I hung up the phone and told Claire that Max will be here soon. I asked her for coffee, and when she said yes, I made coffee for both of us. Claire started telling me about her new job and how she's settling in the town. Claire told me about her life. She had recently gotten divorced and had no children. She wanted a fresh start in her life. That was the reason why she had moved to this town and taken the job. I didn't probe further, as I understood it cannot be easy to talk about such sensitive issues so soon. I told her that I'm here for her as a friend. Max had also come back while me and Claire were talking about food places around the town. This was the first time Claire and Max were meeting. Max has always been an extrovert, immediately befriending people he met, so I wasn't surprised when he talked to Claire like they have known each other forever. Max then went with Claire to her house to open her lock while I stayed back and prepped the table for dinner. I asked Claire to have dinner with us that night. She was hesitant at first, but after both me and Max insisted, she agreed. Max came back quickly and we hung together in front of the TV. We had dinner with Claire that day. She asked me how Max and I met. I told her that we literally grew up together. She was surprised that we have known each other for such a long time. Me and Max smiled at that, and then we talked about other things. We were having dessert, and Max wiped something from the corner of the mouth. I remember this detail distinctively because I saw a look of longing flicker in Claire's eyes. I didn't think much of it after that because I thought I must be overanalyzing things or whatever, but it turns out that my instincts were on the right track after all. We got really familiar with Claire over the next month or so. She was new to the town and didn't have many friends, so I kept inviting her to our place over coffee or dinner. I just wanted to be a good neighbor friend to her so she didn't feel alone. One day over coffee, she told me how her marriage fell apart. We didn't realize how the distance between us grew so much. We became strangers to each other even when we lived in the same house. Tears surged through her eyes as she spoke to me. I comforted her and told her that everything will be better. I told Max what Claire had told me about her life. I felt bad for her because I understood that it could be to see all your dreams about life getting broken. At that point, I thought I wouldn't be able to handle a divorce. Max felt bad for her as well, even though he had talked to her only once till that time. My husband is so compassionate, was my first thought after that. The second was that Claire seemed like a really good person and was a good neighbor as well. It seemed wrong that she had to go through this. Whenever Claire needed any help, like needing a carpenter or to know about the town, me and Max both made sure that we could do something to help her. One day I got a call from Claire that her car broke down in the middle of the road. She told me that she was coming back after work, but her car broke down. I asked her to send me her live location. I was about to go and get her myself when Max came back home. He asked me where I'm going, and upon telling him, he insisted that he will go to get Claire. He told how that location is at the outskirts of the town and that location at night isn't safe for 2 women. Since he was right, I agreed. He went to get Claire while I stayed back home. It took them more time to come than I had thought in my head. I heard them laughing about something as the car door opened. Max came in with a smile and told me how he had called the garage to pick up Claire's car. I nodded and told him to get freshened up for dinner. While we were having dinner, Max remembered that since Claire's car will be at the garage, he offered her that I will drop her to work. I told him that I had to rush school earlier than usual this week because I was taking on extra classes. I told him that it would be better if instead of me, he could drop her on his way to the hardware store. He nodded to that, and that was it. For the next week after that, Max would drop Claire to her work. I used to leave for school before them, but every evening, Max would tell me something related to Claire. Some days it would be things like, Claire really liked John's Pizza. John's was a local pizza place, and I had told Claire to try their pepperoni pizza. He would also tell me jokes that Claire shared with him during their drive to work. I didn't think much of it. Max was a friendly person, He had always been one since we were children. It seemed good that Claire was settling in the town. Claire's car came back from the garage within a week. She started going to work in her car, but Max and her friendship kept growing. I was friends with Claire as well, but her friendship equation with Max was completely different. She would drop by the store with coffee for him. If she needed any help, instead of coming to me like earlier, she would directly call or text Max. It didn't sit well with me. Something felt different about their friendship. Max and I had many friends in the town, but none of the ladies had this type of equation with him. This was different. One day when me and Max were having breakfast, I asked him what he thinks of Claire. He was reading the newspaper and gave a reaction that said he didn't care much. She's cool. I didn't talk further about Claire with Max. Max gave a normal reaction. There was nothing which indicated anything bad. And besides, he tells me everything. Everything he and Claire talked about, I knew. When she went to the store with coffee for him, he sent me a picture on WhatsApp telling that Claire had gotten that for him. I thought this to myself. I let the Claire thing go from my head. I didn't ever doubt Max or his actions ever in our marriage. I trusted him a lot. Soon after that day, I ran into Claire. We started talking and she told me how grateful she is to have me and Max as her neighbor. I really couldn't have asked for someone better. You and Max made it so much easier to settle here. Guilt hit me hard for doubting her intentions, even for a short second. Claire had seemed like a good woman to me. Getting a divorce could be tough. She was just finding good friendships in her new life. Claire kept coming to our house for dinners or other things. I didn't mind it, neither did Max. One day, Claire needed to go to the nearby town to get a new couch set. She asked me if I would accompany her. I don't have much idea about that town, she told me when she called me up. Since it was a Wednesday, I told her that I have school. I told her that I can go with her on the weekend. She was busy that weekend. Max suggested that he can take her there as he didn't have much work on the store that day. Max dropped me to school and then went to pick up Claire. They went to the town together. Max called me during my lunchtime that day. I asked him how shopping was going. He told me all well. After furniture, Claire had decided to get other things as well, since they were already there. I said it makes sense and told Max to drive safely on his way back home. They came late that evening. I was already done with making dinner and was waiting for Max. When he came back, I told him to get freshened up as the dinner was ready. He made a face like he was going to say, but then nodded yes and went to freshen up. After dinner, when I was putting the dishes in the dishwater, I got a call. My friend Cindy was calling me. I picked it up. After a bit of small talk, Cindy asked me if everything is all right between me and Max. That surprised me. Why did Cindy suddenly call me after so long to ask this? I thought to myself and asked her as well. Yeah, everything is good. Why are you asking? Cindy then said, "Oh, it's nothing. I was out with my friends for dinner today in the next town and I thought I saw Max with another woman. They were quite intimate." She continued as to how it could be someone else, and she must be mistaken. Intimate in what way? I asked her. She told me that they were sitting really close, and the woman was constantly touching the man. I knew that Cindy wasn't mistaken. It cannot be a coincidence that the same day Max and Claire went out, Cindy saw someone else that looked like Max with a woman, and that too in the same town. What the fuck is going on here? I kept thinking. Why didn't Max tell me that he had dinner with Claire? He usually told me everything, but he didn't mention anything today. I thought that I'll just ask him myself instead of waiting for him to tell me. When I went to the bedroom, I asked him what all they did today. He hesitated for a moment, but then quickly covered it up and told me how he helped Claire picking up furniture, and then she did some more shopping. That's all. He didn't mention anything whatsoever about having dinner with Claire. Something inside me, my gut feeling or my sixth sense, whatever it is called, told me that I shouldn't tell Max about my call with Cindy. I went with my feelings and didn't tell Max anything. I was going to wait and see what else he was hiding from me. Everything went quite normal for some time. I was busy with school while Max was busy in the store as well. I smiled at Claire whenever we crossed paths, but that was it. She had settled in the town by that time. I hadn't asked him about what Cindy had told me. It kept nagging me that he hadn't told me anything about the dinner. One weekend, I was supposed to have lunch with my friends. School had been so busy that I almost never got the time to see them. Max told me that he's going out to meet his friends as well. We went to our destination separately. In the middle of lunch, my friend Ria asked me how my neighbor was. I told her about Claire. I said she seemed like a good woman. She told me that she had someone in the grocery store talking about how she has a boyfriend. It was a typical small town thing that the locals gossiped about anyone and everywhere. Claire wasn't going to be an exception. What Ria said confused me a bit, as I haven't seen her around any man. If she did have a boyfriend like Ria just said, shouldn't, as her neighbor, I would have seen him at least once or twice. Besides what Ria told me, I enjoyed spending time with friends. On my drive back home, I kept thinking about what Ria had told me and what Cindy told me that day on the call. Something wasn't adding up, but one thing was sure, that my husband was hiding something from me. Lately, he had started avoiding looking me in the eye when talking. It was a very small thing, barely noticeable. I wouldn't have even paid attention to it if I didn't know him for so long. It was a habit of his to avoid eye contact when he's lying or hiding something. I had learned this in the starting of our relationship only. I had my suspicion that something was wrong, but there wasn't anything substantial so that I can finger point at it. I decided to find out what was going on to either confirm my suspicion or end it. I decided that I'll just keep an eye on Max and Claire. One day I had to take a reroute from school to home. There was some construction work going on the way I took it every day. I thank my stars till this day for that, because otherwise I don't know how long I would have lived in that lie. I saw Max's car parked in a quite deserted area. It was quite a long route, so no one usually took it. I was surprised as to why Max was here when half an hour ago he told me that he was in the store. I parked my car in the shadows with quite a distance between our cars. He couldn't see me, but I could see them. I saw my husband and my neighbor getting intimate with each other in his car. I would be lying if I said this I didn't expect it. In my gut, I knew that something was wrong. I just didn't expect to find it like that. That cheating piece of shit went behind my back. Sitting there, I saw my love of life, what a joke, with the woman I considered my friend. Fucking bitch. I had two options at that point of time. Either I could have gone and confronted them. I knew they'll give me some shitty lie or excuse. Or I could act like I didn't know what was going on and make them pay for going behind my back. It wasn't difficult to make up my mind. I didn't want to waste my energy with these lying people anyway, so I took their pictures and made my way home. When Max came in that night, I acted like the doting wife I was, and he pretended like the perfect, caring husband. Lying bastard. I didn't sleep that night. All my thoughts about how our marriage took this form. I kept thinking if there was something I could have done to prevent this. Maybe if I would have given some more time, then this wouldn't have happened. Seeing my marriage crumble was difficult. That night, as Max was sleeping comfortably like he wasn't cheating on me, another thought came to me. It wasn't my fault that he was cheating on me. He consciously made the decision to cheat on me when I trusted him, and I was going to make him regret doing that. That much was final. The next day, I met my best friend, Kara, in the local restaurant. Max, Kara, and I had all studied together in the school. She was now a housewife. Kara was shocked when I first told her about Max and Claire. I told her everything from how Kara moved in and what followed after stopping in the middle when I couldn't stop my tears. Kara comforted me. She said everything will be all right and that I can file for the divorce and start fresh. I told her that wasn't enough. I needed to do something before doing that. Kara didn't understand at first, but when I explained to her how I had given my everything to Max, all my firsts, all my love and devotion, I told her I wasn't going to just let him go and live peacefully. I needed more than that. Kara understood where I was coming from and said she'll figure out with me what to do about Max. We'll make him pay, she told me, surprised with the determination. I went home after and continued the act of not knowing anything about my cheating husband. A few days later, the school had organized a picnic for the kindergarten kids. We were supposed to take the students to Trek and then camp for the night there and then come back the next morning. I went home after school to find Max texting with a shy smile on his face. I had no doubts who he was texting. I had enough of this nonsense. I wasn't going to wait anymore. Suddenly, an idea struck my head. I immediately texted Kara, and after getting an instant reply from her, my plan was set. I told Max that I'm going to the school picnic with the kids and would not be back home the next night. He was completely fine with that, of course he was. No cheating bastards want to spend their nights with their wives. The next day, Max left for the store before me. He kissed me goodbye, and then he was gone. I called up Kara and told her to come to my house. We had a plan to execute. I wasn't going to the school picnic like I had told Max. I had already told the school principal that I won't be able to join them. When Kara came to my house, I discussed with her what I had talked to her the previous night. I was going to get Max's truth out. He pretended to be such a loving husband in front of our families, so I was going to show them the whole truth. Not just them, everyone Max barely knew was going to find out what a cheating loser he was. Me and Kara had decided that we are going to plant cameras and catch Max and Claire red-handed. I was going to live stream it on Instagram so everyone could see it as well. I couldn't wait for Max's reaction and the humiliation he was going to face. We planted cameras in the bedroom hidden from the eyes. I made sure that the cameras captured the bed completely. I had left the house after that and was waiting in a nearby cafe with Kara for Max to get back home. Soon, the evening rolled around and the security cameras showed Max coming back home in his car. To no one's surprise, Claire got out from the passenger seat as well. We saw them going inside. Max made sure that I'm not in the house before taking Claire to the bedroom. It was our bedroom. Pain and anger hit me together. Even though I knew this was going to happen, it didn't hurt any less. Kara saw the stiffness in my shoulders and told me that I didn't need to see this. She would handle it. I was grateful for her, but I needed to see this myself. I needed to see the extent my husband was going to go behind my back. The camera showed Max and Claire getting into the bedroom. They couldn't keep their hands off each other. We were watching this on our laptop, which was connected to the camera we had kept in the bedroom. I took my phone out and opened Instagram. After releasing a breath, I chose the going live feature on Instagram and pointed the camera to the laptop. People started joining quickly and everyone watched Max and Claire getting intimate with each other. I never thought I'd be sitting in that cafe, showing the world my husband in a compromising position with my neighbor. But that's what life is. We never know what is going to happen. More people joined the live stream, and the more I watched Max and Claire doing things with each other in our bedroom that I thought he did only with me, made me sort of numb to emotions. I kept the phone down after some time and kept my head down. I started getting calls from friends and relatives, but I had no intention of talking to anyone. Someone must have told Max as well because he started calling me as well. Maximum number of calls were from him. I didn't pick any one of them. I went to Kara's home that night and crashed in her guest room. Even though I hadn't done anything wrong, I didn't want to face the world. The satisfaction of bringing out Max's truth in front of the whole town made me feel better, but not a lot. The next morning, I checked my phone to see hundreds of missed calls and texts from Max. I knew I couldn't avoid him forever, but I didn't know what he had to say to me anymore. What is there to possibly say to me anymore? I kept wondering as I made my way to the house. Max was walking restless around the house when I entered. "Where were you?" He started bombarding me with his questions. I ignored him and looked around the house. "Claire's not here?" I asked him with a neutral voice. Max went silent for a moment, but then quickly recovered and started telling me how sorry he is. He started crying, but that drama didn't do anything for me. If the situation was any other time when I hadn't seen him in bed with another woman, I would have moved the world to make everything all right for him. But I didn't feel anything for him at that point. Max didn't realize this and followed him as I made my way to our bedroom. The sight of that bed made me nauseous. I tried to ignore it and started packing my stuff. Max was still giving me his lifeless apology and explaining how it didn't want to hurt me. I just wanted to get out of the house, but packing my whole life took time. I had to listen to Max's shitty excuses at that time. He was telling me how they were just friends at first. Max told me that he used to comfort Claire about her divorce, and in moments of weakness and vulnerability, they got intimate with each other. That made me laugh. Not only was he a cheater, he was a stupid human being as well. He was literally trying to justify his adultery to me. When I had enough, I told him to just the shut fuck up and leave me alone. I quickly packed the important stuff and left the rest for the movers. I told him that my lawyers would be in contact with him soon regarding the divorce. He gave a weird look like he was heartbroken or something. Cheaters don't get heartbroken. I left the house and then went to my parents' house. I'm not going to lie and say that everything was easy. It wasn't. Even though I acted strong in front of Max, my heart was deeply hurt. He was the man I imagined my whole life with, and getting betrayed by him did some great damage to me. I didn't let that stop me, though. I went to my lawyer's office a few days later and told her I needed divorce. She nodded, no doubt already knowing what happened because of the live stream, and explained to me the technicalities of the divorce. She told me that I could get the house if I want, but I didn't want that, especially after seeing Max and Clary in that bed. I was better off staying away from that. She explained to me the procedure and everything and asked me what I wanted from Max. I thought about it, but decided that I didn't want anything from him. I just wanted him to be completely removed from my life. I didn't want to see his face or Claire's after what had happened. She nodded in understanding when I told her that. She suggested that since the house was both in mine and Max's name, we could sell it and split the money. That was the best option in that scenario. If Max wanted to build a shrine of the place where he and Claire met and started going behind my back, he could simply buy my part from me. I didn't have any problem with that. I was happy with the knowledge that he cannot walk anywhere in town with his head held high. Everywhere he would go, people would look down on him. He couldn't be especially seen with Claire anymore. People would give him such disgusting looks if he was seen with her. I'm not an evil person, but I'll be honest with you all, the knowledge did soothe my heart. My lawyer told me that they'll contact Max and will let him know about the divorce and the house. I left the office and made my way back to the car. Even though it still hurt how everything went down, there was still some relief as well to not be living in a lie. I started house hunting as I didn't want to live in my parents' house forever. I found a cutesy one-bedroom apartment in close proximity to the school. I got the rent agreement done as soon as possible and moved in quickly. I started going to therapy. It helped me a lot in accepting that I couldn't have done anything to make Max faithful. He was responsible for his actions. My therapist told me that I was blaming myself because Max couldn't be the person he told me he was. It was good to see her perspective even though it cost a lot of bucks. I read a quote somewhere that people go to therapy because of people who needed therapy. I laughed at that. It was kind of true. My divorce came through quickly. There was no resistance from Max's side. The last time we met was at the court when he told me how sorry he was, and if he could, he would undo everything that happened. I didn't forgive him or anything. I didn't even want to talk to that piece of shit. My friends told me that Claire had quickly left the town. She didn't even give her resignation and just vanished after that day I live-streamed them. No surprise that she couldn't face me after stabbing me in the back. Max also left the town after our divorce was finalized. It wouldn't have been easy for him to face everyone after what he had done. I wondered for a minute if he went to Claire, but then took the thought out of my head. I didn't care about either of them. It has been a year since the court granted my divorce. The house has been sold, and I got the money. Max contacted the lawyer and told her that I can keep his share as well. But I flat out said no. I don't want that bastard to feel better by giving me some money. The damage he caused was irreparable. He deserved all that humiliation because he broke my trust and cheated on me, but I didn't do anything to deserve that betrayal. I was loyal to him through our entire relationship. Anyone reading this who has gone through this or is going through this, I want you to know something. You couldn't have done anything more to get their love or faithfulness. In my recent session, my therapist pointed out something really beautiful. She said, and I quote, "There shouldn't be a need to earn someone's love or loyalty. We all deserve it just by being the way we are." This really stuck with me. Even after a year, I still feel hurt sometimes. Sometimes I get nightmares, the video of Max and Claire keeps replaying in my head, but then I remember my therapist's words and try to move on. It's getting easier with time, and I think I'm finally reaching a place of happiness and peace. Thank you for reading my story and for your support through the comments. It means a lot to me. Update. There were a lot of comments asking if Max had tried to contact me. He had when he left the town, but I blocked his number. I also blocked him from all social media platforms. My ex-in-laws live in the same town, but we hardly cross paths, and whenever we do, we just smile and go in our respective directions. Max's mother told me after our divorce how she feels ashamed for what Max had done. I told her it wasn't her fault. I hope that I can reconnect with them in the future.